Okay, question 21. This is functions. Okay, now it says the functions f and g are such that f of x equals 3x minus 1 and g of x equals x squared plus 4. And we need to first find the inverse of x. Okay, so it's good to note there that f to the power of minus 1x, what we're trying to find there is the inverse function. Now the inverse function, if you think about what that means, so we want the inverse of f of x. What we're trying to do here is find pretty much the opposite of what you would do in this function. And what this is saying here, that this function f of x is the same as 3 times the input take away 1. So if you imagine if we were doing that backwards and we were going from the output back to the input, if you go backwards you'd have to add 1 then divide by 3. Now a useful way to kind of do this is to first rewrite that as y equals 3x minus 1, and what you want to do is substitute y for x and x for y, so switch those over and you get x equals 3y minus 1. And when you make y the subject now, you will have found the inverse function, so we need to add 1 to both sides, so you get x plus 1 equals 3y. And then to get y on its own, divide both sides by 3. So you get x plus 1 divided by 3 equals y. And in effect now we've found the inverse function, so that's x plus 1 over 3. Okay, part B, it says given that f of g of x equals 2 of g of f of x, we want to show that 15x squared minus 12x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, so first of all, what is this topic? This here is composite functions. Okay, that's what that basically means there. You've got a function of a function. Okay, so it's combining the two of these in different ways. Okay, so on this side it's saying f of g of x, and on this side it's saying 2 of g of f of x. And what we want to work out is if we work those functions out and we simplify them, we should be able to get to this format, which is in the format ax squared plus bx, although it's minus, plus c. Again, it just means that c is a negative number there. Okay, so it's putting it into a quadratic form. Okay, to work this out now, first of all, you got to realize for 5 marks, and the answer's already given to us, this question is all about your working out and showing how to do this. And it's just about taking each step slowly and just working it out one at a time. So if I start off with f of g of x, okay, so we want f of g of x. Okay, if you think about what that means here, we want f of g of x, right? So we want, the input of this is x at the moment, so we want our input to be g of x, because we want f of g of x, so we're putting this function into there. So what that looks like, well, f of x looks like this, 3x minus 1, and I want to switch x with whatever g of x is. In this case it's x squared plus 4, so we're going to do 3 of x squared plus 4 minus 1, and if you expand and simplify that, you get 3x squared plus 12 minus 1, which gives us 3x squared plus 11 when simplified. Okay. And we're going to show that this is equal, do this in a different color, so we want 2 of g of f of x. Okay, as complicated as that sounds, what that means there is we want 2 of, and I'm going to put this in brackets because there's an easy mistake to make here, of g of f of x. So first of all, this is going backwards now. We want g of f of x. So this time the f of x needs to be substituted into this one. So if we start off with x squared plus 4. Now I would actually multiply those brackets out, because a common mistake here is people forget to multiply the plus 4. So if we expand that out first, we get 2x squared plus 8. That's an important thing to remember there. And now I'm going to put f of x as our input for this. So the input at the moment, our variable is x. I want to substitute g of x into that. So x squared plus 4, sorry, 3x minus 1 will go in there. So it'll be 2 3x minus 1 squared plus 8. Okay. Another common mistake people make here, thinking if you square this, it will just be 9x squared plus 1, where minus 1 squared is positive 1, and that would be it. But what you've got to remember there, anything squared means it's multiplied by itself, so it's not just multiplying by each number individually, it's being multiplied by the entire bracket together. Okay, and just to show you, expanding those brackets down here, we want to do 3x minus 1 times 3x minus 1. Many people kind of do this in their heads at this point. When I teach this, I normally start with getting students to understand that if you do it as a grid, this makes life easier when you're factorizing. If you learn how to multiply it out in grid format, so 3x minus 1 times 3x minus 1. If you learn it this way, what you'll find is these two will always be part of the quadratic expression, and these two will always add together, and that will help you to factorize it, but that will be another topic coming up. So 3x times 3x gives us 9x squared. 3x times minus 1 gives us minus 3x. 3x times minus 1 gives us minus 3x. Another common mistake here, minus 1 times minus 1 is plus 1. Don't forget, a negative times a negative gives you a positive. Okay. Common mistake here, minus 3 and minus 3, people think they cancel out, but they don't, because don't forget, minus 3 add minus 3 will give us minus 6. So when you simplify these, don't forget these two add together. So you get 9x squared minus 6x plus 1. Okay. So going back to this bit here, so we wanted 2, and we've expanded that bracket out, and I'll show you with the color change there. When we expand that out, we get this, we put that there, so 9x squared minus 6x plus 1, and don't forget the plus 8 at the end. And if you expand and simplify that out, 2 times each one of these individually, so that gives us 18x squared. 2 times minus 6x is minus 12x, and 2 times 1 is plus 2 plus the 8, and then that simplifies to 18x squared minus 12x plus 10. Okay, so remembering that our first expression here said that this has to equal this. So if we write that out as an equation, that's telling us that 3x squared plus 11 is equal to 18x squared minus 12x plus 10. Okay, and we want to get it to this format where it's equal to 0. Okay, the reason why we tend to do that is so that you can solve it in a calculator question. They may even ask you to solve that. In this question, obviously in a non-calc, that would involve using the formula, which probably wouldn't give you very nice answers. Okay, so to make that equal to 0, I need to get rid of these two on this side. So if I subtract 3x squared from both sides first, that leaves me with 11 on that side, and that 18x squared minus 3x squared gives us 15x squared, and these two will stay the same. And then subtract 11 from both sides, that will stay as it was. The minus 12x will stay as it was, and then 10 minus 11 gives us minus 1, and we've got 0 on that side. So we've now shown that when you substitute in your values into this expression, we've shown that 15x squared minus 12x minus 1 equals 0.